It's 2:13 in the morning. You're exhausted. Your eyes are burning. Your body feels heavy. But your brain, it's running a marathon. Suddenly, you're replaying an embarrassing conversation from 3 years ago. You're wondering if you said something wrong in that email. You're imagining everything that could go wrong tomorrow. You check the clock. 2:13 a.m., then 2:47, then 3:21. And now you're stressed about being stressed. The worst part? You know these thoughts don't make sense. You know you're probably overthinking, but knowing that doesn't make them stop. If you've ever experienced that, you're definitely not alone. Millions of people struggle with sleep anxiety every night, and while AI can't replace a therapist or cure insomnia, something interesting has happened over the last year. A new generation of AI tools has become surprisingly good at helping people calm racing thoughts, challenge anxious thinking, and create the mental space needed for sleep. So I spent time testing some of the most popular free AI apps people are using for sleep anxiety in 2026. Some were genuinely helpful, some felt robotic, and one app completely surprised me. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which free AI tool is best for overthinking, which one is best for emotional support, and which one I would personally use if I couldn't sleep tonight. Let's get into it. Before we jump into the apps, let's quickly talk about what's actually happening inside your brain, because understanding sleep anxiety makes it much easier to manage. Imagine your brain has two different modes. One mode is rest and recovery. The other is threat detection. When you're calm, your brain naturally prepares your body for sleep. Heart rate slows down, muscles relax, breathing becomes deeper. But anxiety changes everything. Your brain starts scanning for problems. It starts asking questions. What if tomorrow goes badly? What if I fail? What if something happens? What if I'm not prepared? What if I can't sleep? And here's the frustrating part. Your brain thinks it's helping. It believes it's protecting you. But instead, it creates an endless cycle of overthinking. The more you worry, the more alert your brain becomes. The more alert your brain becomes, the harder it is to sleep. The harder it is to sleep, the more worried you become. And around it goes. This is where AI can actually be useful, not because it magically makes anxiety disappear, but because it helps interrupt that cycle. It can guide breathing exercises, challenge irrational thoughts, provide reassurance, help you organize worries, and redirect your attention away from catastrophic thinking. With that in mind, let's look at the best free AI tools available right now. Let's start with Google Gemini. Most people know Gemini as a general AI assistant, but it's actually pretty useful for sleep anxiety. One thing Gemini does well is structure. When anxiety is making your thoughts chaotic, Gemini can help organize them. For example, you can tell Gemini, "I'm feeling anxious about tomorrow and can't sleep." Then ask, "Help me create a calming bedtime routine." Gemini will often generate a step-by-step plan. Things like, turn off bright screens, spend 5 minutes breathing slowly, write down tomorrow's priorities, practice gratitude, listen to calming audio. Simple? Yes, but sometimes simple works. What I liked most was how quickly Gemini could turn vague anxiety into practical action steps. What I didn't like was that conversations sometimes felt a little clinical, a little less warm, a little less personal. If you're looking for emotional comfort, there are better options later in this list. But if you want structure and practical advice, Gemini does a solid job. If you're an overthinker, pay attention to this one. Claude might be the best AI on this list for processing thoughts. Here's why. Many people with sleep anxiety aren't looking for comfort. They're looking for clarity. Their mind is full of unfinished thoughts, unanswered questions, what-ifs, worst-case scenarios. Claude excels at helping you untangle that mental mess. Imagine opening Claude and typing, "I can't sleep because I'm worried about my job, finances, and whether I'm making the right decisions." Claude will often help separate those concerns into categories. Which worries are realistic? Which worries are assumptions? Which worries can actually be solved tomorrow? And which worries are simply anxiety-creating stories? This process can feel incredibly relieving. It's almost like taking a cluttered room and organizing everything into labeled boxes. The room is still there, but suddenly it feels manageable. What impressed me most was Claude's ability to handle long conversations without losing context. You can keep digging deeper, keep exploring, keep journaling, and Claude stays focused. For overthinkers, that's powerful. Now let's talk about the app most people expected to see, ChatGPT. When used correctly, ChatGPT is incredibly useful for sleep anxiety. The key phrase here is when used correctly. Most people open ChatGPT and ask random questions, but the real magic happens when you use targeted prompts. For example, act as a CBT coach and help me challenge the thoughts keeping me awake, or guide me through a 5-minute relaxation exercise, or help me identify cognitive distortions in my anxious thoughts. The responses can be surprisingly effective. One thing ChatGPT does exceptionally well is reframing. Let's say you're thinking, if I don't sleep tonight, tomorrow will be a disaster. ChatGPT can help challenge that thought. Is it realistic? What's the evidence? Have you survived poor sleep before? What's a more balanced perspective? These are techniques therapists often teach. Again, ChatGPT is not therapy, but it can introduce some of the same thinking strategies. It can also create guided meditations, breathing exercises, sleep visualizations, journaling prompts, even personalized bedtime routines. The versatility is what makes ChatGPT so valuable. It's basically several tools in one. And finally, the app that impressed me the most, Pi AI. If ChatGPT feels like an intelligent assistant, Pi feels like a conversation. That's the difference. When people struggle with sleep anxiety, they usually don't need more information. They need reassurance. They need emotional support. They need someone or something to help them slow down. Pi is remarkably good at that. Its responses feel warm, natural, human, and most importantly, calming. When I tested Pi, it consistently responded in ways that felt supportive rather than instructional. Instead of immediately trying to solve the problem, it often helped create emotional safety first. That's important, because anxiety isn't always logical. Sometimes people don't need answers, they need comfort. Pi also has voice conversations, which can be especially useful at night. Listening to a calm voice can feel less stimulating than staring at a bright screen reading text. For racing thoughts, emotional overwhelm, and bedtime anxiety, Pi stood out more than any other app I tested. So which free AI app should you choose? If you want emotional support, Pi AI. If you want thought reframing, ChatGPT. If you want deep journaling, Claude. If you want practical routines, Gemini. Remember, none of these apps are magic. They won't cure anxiety. They won't replace professional help. But they can become useful tools in your mental wellness toolkit. And sometimes, when it's 2 a.m. and your mind won't stop racing, having the right tool can make all the difference. If you've used any of these AI apps, let me know your experience in the comments. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out my other videos on AI, mental health, productivity, and self-improvement. Thanks for watching. And tonight, I hope you get the sleep you deserve.